To the millions of people who have been entertained and inspired by Magnificent Obsession, White Banners, Disputed Passage, The Robe, and other famous books by Lloyd C. Douglas, we respectfully submit this series.
In the unending war against disease and death, medicine is very much like an iceberg. The visible part of the iceberg, above water, is roughly 1/9 of the whole mass, comparable in medicine to our practicing physicians. The rest of the iceberg is submerged in support, represented in medicine by clinical research. This is the story of one of the millions of these submerged heroes of medicine.
Dr. Means? Yes? Yes, Doctor. It's for you, Wayne. Jonas.
Yes, Doc. No, it's quite all right. Mm-hmm. Well, what's your tentative diagnosis? Yeah? Well, go on. I see. Would you hang on for just a minute? Now, there's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Dr. Jonas requests a consultation for a possible brain tumor. The tentative diagnosis is based on an equivocal Babinski, a slight limp, and a couple of attacks of dizziness. There's probably no workup at all, and there's another hour of my precious time shot. Now, I tell you, Means, I'm not going to stare
at that phone, Wayne. I'll put an end to this sort of thing right here and now. Dr. Jonas. Dr. Means speaking. Doctor, would you mind telling me exactly how much of a workup you have on the case? None whatsoever.
See what I mean?
Yes. Yes, Doctor, I understand. I'll explain it to Dr. Hudson. He'll be right up.
He'll be right up? Is that a sample of the support I'm to expect from you?
You should have heard him out, Wayne. Jonas is a good man.
He's also a smart one. He knows how to conserve his time and energy. Just dump the problem in old Hudson's lap.
Wayne, Jonas is seriously concerned. You know as well as I do he's no alarmist.
He's also a smart diagnostician. Now, what's he need me for?
Confirmation only. He's terribly upset. The case is definitely in your bailiwick.
Well, all right. Where is the patient?
He just left him, in the pathology lab.
The pathology lab? What's he doing there?
Working. He refuses hospitalization.
Now, look here, Means. What are you and Dr. Jonas trying to give me?
The patient is Dr. Stevens.
Stevens? Well, why didn't he say so in the first place? You know, that's peculiar. Don Stevens and I were working out a problem together only this morning. He never let out a peep. Now, look here, Don. It just doesn't make any sense. You know as well as I do that neither Jonas nor I can give you a definite diagnosis without hospitalizing you.
What for, Wayne? There's nothing wrong with me, basically, anyway.
We'll find that out when we make the tests.
I'll admit I've been feeling a little under the weather lately.
When did you have your last physical checkup?
Oh, what for, Wayne?
What for? Show me a doctor, and I'll show you the world's worst patient. Jonas saw you walking up the corridor yesterday, dragging one foot.
That's not all that was dragging.
Now, look here, Don. I'm going to have to get tough with you, for your sake and ours. Crackerjack pathologists just don't grow on trees.
Neither do crackerjacks.
You save your little jokes. You may need them. And Talbot will give you a buzz when we have a room for you. Don Stevens is one of the most brilliant diagnosticians in the business. How could he have been so blind? I assure you, if I'd submitted this history to him without associating it with him, Stevens would have deduced multiple sclerosis as a possibility immediately, even without examining the patient.
Well, all of us have a tendency to reject bad news, especially when it concerns ourselves. Where is he? You still got him in bed?
Bed? He's back in the pathology lab at the crack of dawn, squinting through that microscope. Making up for the 2 days he wasted, alleviating our well-meant but whimsical fancies, as he put it.
It's a dreadful thing you have to tell him, Wayne.
How to tell him, that's the question. How do you tell a man you love and respect? A young man, brilliant, happily married, with a distinguished future of service ahead of him? How do you tell him he's got an incurable disease that neither you nor I nor he himself, brilliant as he is, has got the ghost of an answer to? I don't know. Dear God, why did I ever decide to become a doctor?
What's this, Wayne? Central scotometer?
Also paracentral.
That's odd. You know, I had blurred vision a few times, but I just put it down to eye strain.
You see how it all ties in? Nystagmus, loss of superficial abdominal reflexes, temporal disc pallor. Shall I go on?
Don't bother. I've got the picture.
Now, you're aware, Don, that yours could be one of the lighter cases.
Please, don't feed me any of that pap chum. You know as well as I do the diagnosis is multiple sclerosis.
Oh, no, I've seen sclerosis cases at the beginning of my practice that are still navigating and working.
They're very rare exceptions, believe me. That won't be my luck.
Well, they're not as rare as you think. Remissions may last for years.
Would you mind if we drop the whole thing for the moment, Wayne? I've got such an awful lot to think about. All of a sudden, as it were.
Of course, Don.
Good morning, Don.
Dr. Means, could you tell me what Dr. Gresham is doing in my lab?
Afraid I don't quite understand your question, Don.
What is Ray Gresham doing in my lab?
Well, I don't think that should be so difficult to explain.
That's my lab. Either Gresham goes or I go. I don't think I can state my position simply.
Don, can I say one thing? As executive head of this hospital, I have certain fixed responsibilities. I've thoroughly discussed your case with Hudson and decided, under the circumstances, that an assistant might be...
Assistant, my foot. I've still got all my faculties. I'm handling that pathology lab the way I always handled it, alone.
Now, Don, wait a minute.
I'll do my waiting at home. When you've made up your mind how it's going to be, either Gresham or me, give me a ring.
Don.
Good morning, Dr. Hudson.
Good morning, Tacky. Did you get off that copy of the medical journal of Mr. Maxwell last night?
Airmail special delivery. I took it to the post office myself just to make sure.
Thanks, Tacky. It's too soon to expect an answer yet, I suppose.
Yeah.
What about the second copy? Did you go over another one?
Well, Dr. Means gave me his. I sent it to Dr. Stevens' home by special messenger.
I take it we haven't heard from him yet either.
No, but Mrs. Stevens is here.
Mrs. Stevens?
Yes, I have her waiting in your office.
Thanks, Tacky. Mary. Well, this is an unexpected pleasure.
I just had to talk to you, Wayne. I hope you don't mind.
Of course not. Can't think of anybody I'd rather see. Sit down, Mary. How's Don feeling?
He's not at all well. I'm terribly worried about him, Wayne.
Well, I must confess, so are we. Don's not exactly the ideal patient.
Did you ever know a doctor that was?
Not a doctor of medicine, no.
Wayne, I know you're busy. I just barged in without even making an appointment. Can I ask you a few direct questions?
Of course, Mary. Go right ahead.
I read the piece in the journal you sent over yesterday.
Oh?
Don's limp has obviously been getting worse. Last night he had another dizzy spell. He complains periodically of blurred vision. It all seems to add up. Is it multiple sclerosis?
Yes, Mary. I'm afraid it is.
Does Don know?
I've gone over the tests and the diagnosis with him.
Isn't that just like Don? He never told me a thing about it. It was all a lot of nothing, that's all he said.
Well, he didn't want you to worry.
How childish can you be?
I doubt whether he's even really admitted it to himself.
You know, Wayne, Even though Father was a doctor and I'm married to a doctor, I can't honestly say I know what multiple sclerosis really is.
Well, unfortunately, multiple sclerosis is one of those diseases we know very little about. There are 300,000 people afflicted with it in this country alone. Most of them young, vigorous adults on the threshold of life. Why some people get it and others don't is still a mystery. We don't know how they get it. We don't quite know what it is. And we don't know how to cure it. One thing we do know for a certainty is that it's not contagious.
Go on.
I suppose the illness can be best described as a gradual deterioration of the nerves or nerve linings. It causes an impairment of the functions of those parts of the body that are activated by the damaged nerves.
You say deterioration of nerve or nerve linings. Just what does that mean?
Well, nerves are protected by a fatty myelin sheath, something like the insulation on an electric wire. And it's this nerve sheath that's attacked in multiple sclerosis. Portions of it disappear and are replaced by scar tissue, which interferes with the passage of nerve impulses, causing a weakening of the muscles supplied by the involved nerves.
I take it this retarding process advances in proportion to the deterioration.
Well, it can be quite imperceptible, sometimes going on for a period of many years. I was telling Don that I saw a lot of cases in the beginning of my practice that are still navigating and doing a full day's work.
It's what you doctors call a crippler rather than a killer.
Well, Mary, you must understand that multiple sclerosis is one of the most quixotic and baffling diseases that ever confronted medical science. The patient may be down in the depths, physically and mentally. Then, all of a sudden, the sclerotic symptoms disappear. The patient can go on for days or weeks, even months, living a completely normal life, and to all appearances, cured. Then suddenly it hits again, and the patient reverts to its former state. Very often, mentally or physically, a step or two lower than he'd been before.
What a cruel, heartless disease this is.
Don will have a declining reservoir of energy. You and I both must see to it that he conserves it as much as possible. I'll be able to give him physiotherapy here to strengthen his weakening muscles. Plenty of sleep, plenty of rest. I'm afraid there isn't much else we can do.
Wayne, this piece you gave me in that journal is terrific. Harry, what are you doing here?
Don.
I'm happy you chose this moment to drop by, Doctor.
I guess this is a meeting that's long overdue.
Well, there it is in black and white. I tell you, Bob, when you pull something like this out of the hat, it makes up for everything you've ever put up with. All the beatings you've taken, all the petty annoyances, and the daily drudgery of a doctor's life. This makes up for all of it with a plus.
Wayne, I can't believe it.
Well, there are the figures. They don't lie.
$10,000 a year for a research grant in multiple sclerosis. It's incredible.
Now, nurse, this is Dr. Hudson. Would you run into my office and tell Dr. Stevens and Mrs. Stevens to come to Dr. Mean's office immediately? Thank you. What do you think of that crazy old mud-smelling galoot Pete Maxwell? After all he's done for this hospital.
Wayne, I couldn't be happier for you.
For me?
Why? I presume...
Now, you don't think I'd done Pete Maxwell for all that money just for me?
But multiple sclerosis is in your neurological bailiwick. Who else could? Don Stevens.
I don't think I've come crawling here with a change of heart means. What I set up in that scrub room still goes. It's got to be either Gresham or me. What's your answer?
You're fired, Doctor.
Don, no.
Don't worry, Mary. I'll find myself a berth elsewhere. Let's go. Crackerjack pathologists just don't grow on trees.
Neither do crackerjacks. Why, you obstinate, headstrong fool. You think Dr. Means would fire you at a time like this? Or that I'd just stand by and let him do it?
I don't get it. What are you two driving at?
I had to fire you in order to promote you. Paradoxical, I'll admit. but nevertheless, it's the truth. Hudson's a witness.
You mean you two want me to head up this project?
Can you recommend a better man?
Don, I'll be working right alongside of you. I'll give you as much of my time as I can spare.
Oh, Don, how wonderful.
We've got 29 multiple sclerosis cases in our outpatient clinic now. Mine will make 30.
Well, that ought to be a fine group to start with.
When do you want to begin?
Immediately, if it's all right with you.
I leave it entirely up to you and Wayne.
And we'll get right down to work. All right, Hudson?
That's your service, Doctor. Morning, Miss Light.
Morning.
Is Dr. Stevens busy?
He has a patient. Oh, I believe he's through.
Morning, Doctor. Could I see you for a minute?
I'll be with you in just a moment, Kathleen.
Thank you, Doctor.
Well, that was a provocative night's reading you dumped in my lap.
What do you think, Wayne?
Well, this concept of multiple sclerosis as an allergic manifestation is unquestionably a step forward.
I'm absolutely convinced those boys back east are on the right track.
Yes, but allergic to what?
That's our job, to localize and discover.
Well, don't let your enthusiasm obliterate 2 points. We're turning over those other 29 multiple sclerosis cases to you, but you are still my patient. And when I crack the whip, I don't want any arguments.
I might have known there'd be a catch to it. Ready for you now, Kathleen? Oh, Kathy, your physiotherapy reports indicate your legs are showing some improvement.
It takes so long to show so little.
You're not getting discouraged.
Well, to be honest, a little.
You can't get discouraged. We're going to fight this thing and lick it.
I want to fight, Dr. Stevens. I really do. But I get so tired. I just don't have the energy.
You've got to fight it. You've got to stay with it. Kathy, can I let you in on a scientific secret?
Something to do with multiple sclerosis?
Very much so. I haven't even told Dr. Hudson of this yet, but if it works, it's going to make a complete upheaval in the whole concept and treatment of multiple sclerosis. Kathy, how would you like to be my first patient to try the new therapy?
Dr. Stevens, could I really be?
Of course, I'd have to test it first. But if it works...
It will work. I just know it will.
Don? Don? Dr. Hudson speaking. No, I couldn't reach him either. That's what... Livingston, hang on a minute. Dr. Stevens is in shock. Rush up 2 ampules of adrenaline and a hypo syringe on the double. Don? How are you feeling?
What happened?
Afraid you blacked out. What were you trying to do up in that lab?
A little experiment I cooked up.
You give yourself enough histamine to knock over a horse. Now, you listen to me, Don. I'm still in control of this project. You might as well know right now that I'm not going to stand for any more of these monkey shines. You're going to play the game by the rules from now on, or we're not playing at all. And that includes closing up shop at 5 o'clock every day. Do you understand?
You can depend on me, Wayne, I promise.
And I'll accept that. Now, what was the point of that histamine intravenous?
Oh, forget it.
Now, you don't risk that kind of self-experimentation without a purpose.
I couldn't try it on any of my patients until I determined the hazards involved. So it was a blind alley. Let's forget it.
No, not necessarily. I think I know what you were driving at. The fault may not be with the drug, but with the amount and the speed with which it was infused.
Do you think so?
Well, you know perfectly well that histamine's a very potent drug. It has to be handled with extreme care. but I think you may be on the right track. General overall desensitizer?
Exactly. We'll be treating the patient by attacking all possible allergies, on a broad spectrum, as it were. Like using a shotgun instead of a rifle when you can't see what you're shooting at.
How fast did you get that dose into yourself?
About 5 minutes before I blacked out.
Well, we'll try it again. This time with me standing by. We'll slow down the infusion to 2 hours and see what that'll do.
I think we've got hold of something here, Wayne. I really do.
So do I. We'll have time to talk tomorrow. You get yourself a good night's sleep.
Dr. Stevens, what happened?
Oh, nothing at all. Just a minor little setback. Just shows if you don't take care of yourself, even a silly little sprain can be a nuisance. Kathleen, you've gotten rid of your wheelchair.
It's those shots you've been giving me. They're working wonders.
Oh, I couldn't be more gratified.
What is it? You said you'd tell me.
Histamine.
Histamine? What is that?
Well, histamine is a chemical normally found in the body. During any allergic reaction, such as asthma, eczema, or hay fever, the body manufactures it in excess amounts. You see, if the theory is true that multiple sclerosis is caused by an allergic reaction, then there's probably excess histamine in the body of the multiple sclerosis patient, which causes periods of exacerbation or relapse, just as an excess amount of histamine in the asthmatic would trigger off an asthmatic attack. So, by giving you small, carefully graded doses of histamine, we hope to build up enough antihistamine bodies to lessen the excess histamine, thereby lessening the number and the severity of the attacks, and perhaps eventually of even preventing them. Would you come in, nurse, please? And now let's get down to business. Nurse, will you take Kathleen for her histamine intravenous? And you might send in the next patient.
Yes, doctor.
As Kathleen responded, slowly but surely, to the new histamine treatment, poor Don just as surely retrogressed, for neither his wife nor I could control his feverish activity. Kathleen grew stronger, Don grew weaker. Until finally, she virtually became his hands, his legs, his ever-present aid.
Paragraph. So far, all we have found is a palliative in the histamine treatment. Experience shows us that it is a treatment. Only a treatment, and not a cure. We know now that we won't find a cure until we find the cause of multiple sclerosis. Our research has convinced me that multiple sclerosis is caused by an absorption of toxin, which is not toxic to the average person, but which is toxic to the multiple sclerotic, whose brain and spinal cord are specifically sensitized on an allergic basis. I think I'm finally on the track of it. And if I live long enough, I hope to have this toxin isolated. I'm afraid that's all I can manage for the moment.
Then you rest up. And I'll go and type what you've given me.
How is he? The apparent effectiveness of histamine on Kathleen and other patients was soon proved only temporary, and time has confirmed Don Stevens' final doubts of histamine as a treatment. We still have not found the answer to multiple sclerosis, but we must, and we will.